Before we start the meeting, a couple quick public service announcements. For an emergency, please note the exits on either side of the chambers and proceed down the stairs. Bathrooms are located at the door to my left. Women's room is to the right, men's to the left. We allow 30 minutes for public speaking. If you have not done so already, please sign up at the podium or through the Zoom chat. Please note the council has rules of decorum for our meetings, including the public speaking portion. We ask that respect be shown to all, whether they serve on the council, on the staff, or are here as a public member. I am now calling the Common Council meeting to order at 7:36 p.m. on March 4th, 2024. If you are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. May I please have roll call?
Alderman Pasty,
Present.
Alderman Tierney, Alderman Scott Childress,
Here.
Alderman Edwards,
Excused.
Alderman Mickens, Alderman Dennison, Alderman Andrews, Alderman Shabbat,
Here.
Alderman Hirsch.
Here. We have a quorum. Can I have a motion to dispense with the
Motion.
minutes of the previous meeting and approve same? Motion by Steve Shabbat, second by Michelle Hirsch. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is adopted 8-0. Can I have a motion? 7-0. We lost a council member here. Thank you. Can I have a motion to dispense with the reading of the general bills? Motion by Rennie Scott Childress,
Second.
second by Sarah Pasty. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Motion is adopted 8-0. As council members, we get the opportunity to meet folks from throughout the city and from all walks of life. Throughout our service on the council, we meet community members who genuinely move us with their acts of kindness and their efforts to better our community. Tonight, we recognize and honor an organization that has gone above and beyond to serve and help others with the Common Council Community Award. We are delighted to present Ulster County Youth Build with the award this month. They were selected by Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch, and at this time, I invite Michelle and the representatives from Ulster County Youth Build up to the podium.
Does that work? Good evening. So I'm so excited to honor Ulster County Youth Build tonight because they have a program that is synergistically good for students and our community. Students that don't always do well in traditional schools can enroll and receive assistance earning their GED while receiving hands-on training in construction by building and repairing affordable first-time low-income homes for income homes. Founded 30 years ago in 1994, happy anniversary, Ulster County Youth Build has been consistently awarded funding every 2 years by the federal government. That really speaks to the program's success. Youth Build has helped over 600 participants earn their GED. The students are also offered many opportunities to earn several building trade certifications that graduates will be able to use throughout their lifetime. Local high schools have now allowed Youth Build students who pass and receive their GED to walk on stage during their former school's graduation ceremonies. Before exiting the program, Youth Build staff align students' interests and goals with potential career and internship possibilities. Following graduation, Youth Build staff continue to provide graduates with 12 months of follow-up to assist with helping them keep on the right track in reaching their intended goals. The staff at Ulster Youth Build places a strong emphasis on career development, personal development, and leadership development. In the last 30 years of the program, Ulster County Youth Build has completed a total of 28 homes. Most have been complete new builds with a few rehabs mixed in. In Ulster County, 26 in Kingston, 1 each in Ellenville and the town of Ulster. All of these homes were sold to low-income, first-time home buyers and built by student trainees guided by their 2 employed trainers. During the last completed grant period with Youth Build had an over 85% completion rate, over 91% of students attained a degree and or nationally recognized industry certification, and over 89% of students attained a literacy and numeracy gain in education. There has been graduates from Youth Build that have gone on to become college students, business owners, police officers, joined the military, union workers, nurses, and ultimately have created a better life for themselves. Ulster Youth Build is dedicated to changing the path of Ulster County's youth by addressing the core issues facing low-income communities, social equity and equality, housing and education, food insecurities, employment, crime prevention, and leadership development. It is my honor to present this Common Council Community Award to Ulster County Youth Build. This award is not just going to the program and staff, but this award is also honoring each and every student that had the courage and determination to enter and graduate the program. Congratulations. Would you like to say something?
I just want to say thank you to the council for having us and having us receive this award. You know, I believe firmly that these young people don't leave traditional school because they don't want to learn. I can promise you that. There's many other things that contribute to that. But ultimately what it is that they decided they wanted to come make a difference. They wanted to change the path in their lives. And I've been part of the program for 10 years. It'll be my last thing I do. I won't leave Youth Build unless we stop getting funded, and then I'll have to see some other way to help these young people. But I did bring tonight, I tried to get a lot more of them to come, but it's late and they were in class all day. So, but I did bring along a recent graduate, a current student, and one that I want to point out, a young lady who graduated in 2011. And I believe everything happens for a reason. A few hours before we got the call or the email that we received this award, this young lady that graduated in 2011 happened to come into our office because she's now a business owner and she wants to mentor our young students and possibly be an employer partner to offer them jobs. So that's the kind of things that we want to see. Hopefully it continues. But you know, if any of you guys want to say anything, go right ahead. You got it in you, I promise.
All right, hi guys. I am one of the recent students that just graduated. Youth Build definitely played a really big part. These guys know firsthand that I did not come in the program the brightest person in the group. So, and they definitely changed me, and they definitely pulled a lot of things out of me that I was scared to pull out of myself. Showed me things that I actually truly didn't know about myself as a person, and you know, just told me, like, always was there for me, always believed in me, always told me that at the end of the day, if you don't believe in yourself, we're here to believe in you for you. So, yeah.
Very well said. So yeah, I graduated in 2011 and I now own a cleaning business, licensed, insured. I have 3 employees, and I can definitely say that I started actually caring. You guys can hear me, right? Okay. I actually started caring about, you know, my life and where I wanted to be when I did start Youth Build, and I was really young, and I did try quitting the program a couple times, but they wouldn't let me. They literally would not let me. They'd come to your house, they knock on your door like, let's go. We're not doing this. You're not giving up. And because of them, I didn't give up. I got my GED, and here I am today. Thank you.
Again, I thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. You're more than welcome to stick around, but if you want to leave, that's also fine too. And I also want to correct one thing that I said for our friends on Zoom. If you would like to speak, if you could raise your Zoom hand, not sign up through the chat. So I apologize for that mistake. We're now entering into the public speaking portion of the meeting. We have allotted 30 minutes for this purpose. Speakers will have 3 minutes. Please be aware that I will give a verbal 30-second warning. If there are remaining speakers after 30 minutes, I will call for a motion from the council to extend the period for another 30 minutes. Speakers, direct your comments to the chair, as council members cannot engage in debate during this time. Please state your name and address on the record before we begin. There could be no distractions from the audience in chambers or on Zoom when a speaker addresses the council. The Common Council has also received written comments for our consideration, and they could be found on the city's website under tonight's agenda. Can I have the first speaker, please?
Jasmine Atala.
I just want to make sure. I was having a hard time hearing the last people. Is this loud enough? Does this feel good? Okay.
Yeah, for everybody who comes up, you just have to, the microphone just needs to be close
Okay.
to you, and then,
Okay. I'm Jasmine Atala. I live in Ward 8 in Punkaki. I spoke to you all back in January, but as a reminder, I lived in Kingston for 15 years. I'm an Arab American, and I've owned a business in Ulster County since 2016. As I'm sure you're aware, other local municipalities like Albany, Newburgh, New Paltz, Hudson, and Beacon have passed ceasefire resolutions. This is really hopeful for me, as it means the tide is turning, that people are paying attention to the amount of lies and rumors consistently being peddled by Israel and perpetuated by Western media to justify Israel's genocidal ethnic cleansing campaign. It's also hopeful to help to see other local elected officials recognizing the importance for cities and towns to issue these statements and resolutions. However, it leaves me disappointed that the city that I'm proud to call home has remained silent on this. My hope is that given the overwhelming majority of Americans across party lines in favor of a ceasefire, this council will listen to the will of the majority of Kingston residents and vote in favor of a ceasefire resolution when a new one is put forth. In the almost 2 months since I addressed you last, many things have changed, all for the worse. 7,177 more people have been murdered by the state of Israel, funded by our taxpayer dollars, armed by U.S. weapons. Since I last spoke here, the International Court of Justice determined that Israel was plausibly committing a genocide. I feel like I need to repeat that sentence. The International Court of Justice has determined that Israel was plausibly committing a genocide, and we're funding it. Since I last spoke here, the IOF fired on and murdered hundreds of starving civilians, retrieving aid not once but twice. Since I last spoke here, the WHO, the UN, UNICEF, Doctors Without Borders, and countless other international agencies and organizations have spoken out against Israel's deliberate starvation of civilians. Since I last spoke here, Israeli citizens have set up tents along the Kerem Shalom border to physically block food and aid from entering the Gaza Strip, and Israeli police have allowed them to do so. Since I last spoke here, an active duty member of the U.S. military lit himself on fire, some of his final words being that he would no longer be complicit in genocide. I could go on. I want to go on about the IDF soldiers looting and vandalizing Palestinian homes or posing for pictures with stolen women's underwear and children's toys. I want to go on about the lies that our media is telling that are under harsh scrutiny, both domestically and abroad. But I'd be here all week if I said all I wanted to say. I know some of you have asked what difference it makes for a city 5,600 miles away from Gaza to call for a ceasefire, and I can tell you what I think it does. I think it sends a clear message that Kingston residents do not support the ongoing internationally condemned genocide of the Palestinian people, that we dissent our tax
seconds.
money being used in this way, and make sure that when our children and grandchildren ask, how were people okay with this? How did they stay silent? And make no mistake, they will ask us. We can answer, we weren't. As for the idea that a ceasefire resolution is divisive, calling for an end to our taxpayer dollars being used to starve and murder men and women and children while people in this city can't afford their rent and need to rely on free community fridges stocked by other community members to feed their families should not be divisive. I wonder why you're more concerned with placating the small minority who oppose a resolution to end a
Thank you. Your
genocide.
time is up. Thank you.
I hope you consider that a vote for a ceasefire is a vote that will
Thank-
mark Kingston's legacy.
Thank you.
Sit on the right side of history. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Greg Shahan.
Hello, my name is Greg Shaheen. I'm a lifelong Ulster County resident, Kingston resident for the past 6 years. As was just explained, it's become abundantly clear that there's a genocide going on in Gaza. And, the simplest, most obvious thing that we can do as a community is call for a permanent ceasefire and the immediate provision of humanitarian aid. As was mentioned, this is at this point has happened in Newburgh, New Paltz, Hudson, Beacon, Albany have all passed ceasefire resolutions. I think Poughkeepsie is also considering it. And I feel, grateful in a lot of ways to live in Kingston, a city where people, in general, we stand up for injustice. But the fact that, we have, the fact that this body has remained silent on this and hasn't even considered a resolution makes me feel some kind of embarrassment, honestly, to live in Kingston as we look at what these other cities are doing in the Hudson Valley. So I encourage you to really think about that and work with the people that are working on a new resolution that we can hopefully all agree on. In 2012, I spent about a month living in the West Bank and experienced firsthand the brutally repressive Israeli occupation that is funded by US tax dollars and is upheld by the same complacency and false narratives that are propelling the ongoing genocide in Gaza today. I've also lived in Lebanon, where my ancestors are from, and know the atrocities committed by Israel against the Lebanese and Palestinians there, in bombing campaigns there, and something that's also continuing today, as well as in Gaza, by the Israelis, by the Israeli regime. But you don't need to go to the Middle East to see what's happening, as was just mentioned before. I mean, I'm sure you're at this point all well aware of the unimaginable scale of death and destruction inflicted on the Palestinians by Israel with our government's full support, which we in turn support with our tax dollars. And I just encourage us to imagine the billions that could be invested instead in our own communities. And you, as
30
elected
seconds.
officials, have a platform. I think our federal leaders have kind of failed us in a lot of ways, and here you have a platform as elected officials. So I ask you, why not be a part of the group of Hudson Valley cities that are making a statement for humanity? And yeah, there's still a chance for each of you as individuals and also, the body as a whole to stand on the right side of history on this. So thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Malcolm Byrne.
Hi, my name is Malcolm Byrne. I'm a resident of Ward 9 here in Kingston. I've lived here for 24 years. I'm very proud to live in Kingston. I love our city. But I have to say that, I'll tell you a little story. When I was 12 years old, my father was working in Germany, and my mother was very insistent that we go to visit a place called Dachau, which was a concentration camp, excuse me, during the Second World War. And over that camp is written 2 words in German, "Nie wieder." Those words mean, in English, never again. And I believe that those words apply to all people everywhere, not just to a specific point and time in history. When I was young, my mother also told me to do a lot of research and find out as much as I could about any given subject. And she said, so go and find out as much as you can, read as much as you can, and not only just read the things you agree with, but read the things you may not necessarily agree with. In other words, watch MSNBC, watch CNN, but also watch Fox News. Find out what everybody's thinking. And then we can, as she said, once you know as much as you can, then the most important thing, do the right thing. If it was in 1860, what would be the right thing? Would it be to support slavery or fight against it? If it was the Second World War, would the right thing be to support Nazi Germany or fight against Nazi Germany? If it was Vietnam, would the best thing be to join the army and go kill people that we don't know anything about, or would it be to protest? We're again at that moment in our history. So I implore you, I know that we live in a city, we have lots of problems, but I guarantee that our problems are nothing compared to people who are literally starving to death right now because of US foreign policy. And our tax money, and I know this, it eventually ends up supporting these corporations that build arms, and a lot of our economy is built on the arms industry. As a county, as a community, I would hope that we could
30
vote
seconds.
to no longer support that. And the best way to do that is to vote, as has been pointed out, with the other cities. Hudson, Albany has done it. A number of other cities have done it around here. Let's join the club. Let's do the right thing, please. Free Palestine, free Gaza, from the river to the sea. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Stephen Johnson.
Thank you. With respect,
Name
when
and,
we
name
put
and address,
Stephen
please.
Johnson, 30 years in Ulster County, I live in Ward 9. And, you know, when I pull into the wonderful new junction here, I see a possibility. I see Kingston inclusive. Kingston loves, you know, it's beautiful. I love it. And I imagine other things that go along with that, you know, such as ceasefire, talk, you know, have an intellectual conversation if you need to have one, or just ask around, find out who's really feeling this. You know, I'm feeling a lot myself, and I'm talking to people, they feel a lot. Some feel strongly one way, some feel strongly the other, but the meeting ground is going to be within the sphere of weapons down, ceasefire now. You know, our hearts, our humanity, our minds, our humanity depend on having this support within our communities, an intelligence that lifts us up. You know, we're all very smart, I think, and smart enough to know where the mind has to maybe take a little pluck of courage from the heart to step forward and say, I really, really feel strongly about this. This is a human catastrophe. We're witnessing it. The world is a mess, but Kingston can realize this together. You know, it's not a part, you know, we're not talking about politics here, we're talking about humanity. And I appeal to us all to realize that as quickly as possible and draft whatever shape or form, but clearly state we stand for humanity, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Sam Goldberg.
Hello. There we go. Hi. My name's Sam. I do live here in Kingston. I'm not going to say my address because I was taught to not do that in a room full of strangers and on the internet. So maybe consider that. Yeah, so my name's Sam. I'm a Jewish member of this community. I've been here before, but just to remind you where I'm coming from, my paternal great-grandparents came to this country escaping the anti-Semitic violence of the Russian Empire. And like virtually all other Ashkenazi Jews, I know that my extended family that remained in Europe were almost certainly annihilated in the Holocaust, along with the vast majority of other Lithuanian and Latvian Jews. This is a very local, personal issue. I find the idea that it is not personally offensive. The US government makes this genocide possible. All of our tax dollars make this genocide possible. We pay for the munitions that our government sends to Israel to destroy more than 70% of the homes in Gaza, more than 346 schools, every single university, to attack healthcare workers and facilities more than 212 times, to displace 85% of the population, and to kill more than 30,000 people. That's more than 1 in every 100 people in Gaza. And those numbers are old. Those numbers are from a month or two ago. The destruction and the murder is ongoing. It is an ongoing genocide every single day. So it's very personal and important to many people here, most importantly our Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim neighbors, but hopefully to each and every one of us, including myself. And I can speak to what that means to me, a small thing that means to me as a Jewish person. When I learn about the apartheid system and lack of political, civil, and human rights for Palestinians in Israeli occupied territories, I can only see the restrictions placed on Jews in the Pale of Settlement and the racial laws of Nazi Germany. When I see the destruction of mosques and schools, I can only see the burning of books and synagogues. When I see Israeli settlers kill Palestinians and destroy their homes, I can only see the pogroms of Eastern Europe, the anti-Jewish pogroms. And when I see videos of families stuffed into tiny apartments in Rafah, piled on top of each other, I can only see the nearly identical circumstances of Europe's Jews as they were ghettoized as they awaited deportation during the Holocaust.
30 seconds.
When I see the collapse of healthcare systems and the use of starvation and dehydration as weapons of war and collective punishment, and the construction of a so-called buffer zone in the Sinai Desert, I can only see the conditions and the walls of a death camp. These are deeply personal feelings of mine. They're related to deep generational trauma that I do not want to share with you. But I must, I have to. You're forcing me to, because you are failing to speak up on this
Your
issue.
time is up.
So
Thank
please
you.
pass a ceasefire resolution now. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Mia.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mia Inoue. I live at 318 Hasbrook Avenue in Kingston. I was also here about a month ago to speak to all of you. At that time, about 23,000 people had been killed in Palestine. And since then, more than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israel during this ongoing and widely recognized genocide. That's more than the population of the entire city of Kingston. As people have mentioned, we've been watching as hundreds of starving people are gunned down while scavenging for flour on the brink of starvation. This affects some of our coworkers, our friends, our community members very directly because they have friends and family members who are there in Gaza, and they are trying to send money, trying to get any kind of resources through to help keep them alive. It's really painful, as I'm sure you know, to watch an ongoing genocide happening, right, on Instagram, on social media, to see it very clearly documented, to know also that it's happening with our tax dollars and in our government's name, that our government is giving political cover to this massacre, and that we feel powerless to do anything about it. We're here to ask you to join the 5 other local cities that have passed ceasefire resolutions, including Albany, Hudson, New Paltz, Newburgh, and Beacon, in calling for a permanent ceasefire and making that call to our federal officials. I would also urge you at this point to push not just for a ceasefire, but also for humanitarian aid to prevent further excess deaths due to starvation and disease. I think that an issue last time we discussed this, as I understand, was, the question of whether the Common Council should have any thing to say about foreign affairs, right, given the purview of this body. And to me, it continues to be very important that you make a statement on this issue, because we as Americans, a majority of Americans
30
of both
seconds.
parties have supported a ceasefire since October, right? And we're not being listened to by our federal elected officials. And that's why we're coming to our city councils and trying to make our voice heard to the world. Please stand with the people of Palestine. Please take a clear stance against genocide and demonstrate to this country, to our federal elected officials, and to the world that the city of Kingston stands for humanity. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Elizabeth Goldhammer.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Goldhammer.
You may need to just speak up a little bit more.
Sorry, I'm
Thank
a
you.
quiet talker. Try to speak up. Yeah, so I'm also from Kingston. I'm also a Jewish person, or Jewish and Irish actually background. Anyway, I was born in Kingston Hospital and I graduated from Kingston High School, and I thought that Youth Build presentation was awesome. Those guys are doing great stuff. But I'm here to talk about the ceasefire. I am another one of the majority of Americans who can't watch this happen and not say something. We're not asking you to take a very controversial position on this. It is supported by a majority of Americans. This directly affects people in our community. People in our community are paying for this. People in our community are going to have to live with this isn't going to go away. We're going to be living with this. If you have loved ones in the military, they are going to be living with this, with the consequences of this. You've heard all these numbers. I think a lot of you already agree with what I'm saying, but don't feel like you're in a position where you have the power to have an effect. But, you have to use the power that you do have to the best of your ability. That's what all of us private citizens are doing. And that's what we have trusted you to do as well. And I know that you are capable of that. You already know the numbers. 13,000 kids in 4.5 months, 30,000 people. It's roughly a kid every 10 minutes. If you do the math there. Let's see my notes here. We're involved. We're paying for it already. The weapons that are being used there that we have paid for, our troops are not allowed to use those weapons in that sort of a setting, certainly not in a dense city of high-rise buildings. White phosphorus is internationally banned. It's an oxidizing agent that ignites on contact with air. And, the injuries are totally devastating.
30 seconds.
This is happening very publicly, very well recorded, and the United States is the reason that it's continuing to happen because of our veto and because of our money. And therefore we're involved. Therefore we have responsibility to do whatever we can with all the power that we have, however limited. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Anthony Fitzpatrick.
Madam President,
Anthony, you might want to just move the mic up a little bit so it's closer to your mouth. Thank you.
Anthony Fitzpatrick, Port Ewan. Madam President, in my personal capacity as a pedestrian, I wish to use my 3 minutes tonight to share my understanding of the ethical stance known as Vision Zero and where it fits within the federal stage systems approach. Vision Zero is a way to reduce traffic fatalities by stating that such fatalities are avoidable and unacceptable as a goal. This is the first of 6 steps in the federal safe systems approach. The following 5 steps are accepting that people make mistakes, people are squishy, responsibility is shared, safety is proactive, and redundancy is crucial. I typically look both ways before crossing the street, but sometimes I feel my hearing is close enough in the late hours of the night. If I'm overly distracted and I walk into the street in the middle of the night in a tight area, a car shouldn't be able to sneak up on me with enough force to kill me. At 40 miles per hour, the statistical probability that I'm dead or seriously injured is 73%. At 20 miles per hour, this drops to about 13%. In the event that I've expired in this dark street, the mayor, the Complete Streets Advisory Council, the street planners, the engineers, even the community would accept that these are our streets to keep safe and move towards thinking towards the goal rather than the mistakes of the motorist or I have made. The thinking would manifest more proactive measures in areas known to be dangerous, such as flashing signs where there is total darkness, posting more signs generally, or even lowering the speed limit in the safe systems approach. In the safe systems approach, all of those measures are implemented to catch as many as all inevitable human errors that could occur from all who use the streets simultaneously. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Justin Orashan.
Next speaker, please.
Casey Wimbish.
Hello, my name is Casey Wimbish and I live at 143 Henry Street. I first want to say, as a frequent biker and walker in this city, I urge you to adopt the Safe Streets approach to infrastructure planning because it is not safe out there. But really, I come here tonight out of rage, despair, and disbelief that the war in Gaza is still ongoing and that we, each and every one of us in this country, this city, and in this room are complicit in the violence, the deaths, the destruction of lives, families, hopes, and dreams. We are now 5 months into this war. It is almost impossible to imagine the death and destruction. Is something weird? Is it like woo, woo, woo? Or it's just because I hear myself? Okay.
We've been trying to get the air off so people could hear better, and it just went off, and that's why the
Okay, but it's
change.
normal.
This is normal, and now
Okay.
people could hear a little bit better. Sorry, it took us a while to.
Okay, great.
We don't have control of that.
Okay,
And
good.
I did pause your time.
Thank
so,
you.
Yeah.
It is almost impossible to imagine the death and destruction as we continue on living our comfortable and fairly normal lives here. But to help us imagine, here are some facts. More than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed. This is more than the entire population of Kingston. Imagine our entire city being wiped out. Imagine our entire city being wiped out as the world watches and does nothing. Over 1,000 children have had one or more legs amputated. That statistic alone is appalling, but imagine that most of those amputations were done without anesthesia. Almost all 2 million Palestinians living in the Gaza Strip have been displaced. The World Food Program said that Gaza has the worst level of child malnutrition anywhere in the world, and he warned that if nothing changes, a famine is imminent in northern Gaza. Our taxes fund this. Our American-made weapons kill people, destroy homes and hospitals, and leave children with missing limbs. Our American politicians refuse to stop sending money, weapons, and they refuse to listen to our demand for a permanent ceasefire. We have called, emailed, rallied, protested, blocked traffic, hung signs, shut down buildings, cried, screamed, and still this war continues. I am dismayed by the lack of action by people, politicians, and institutions. This silence is complicity. This silence is enabling the ongoing destruction of Palestinians. This silence is painful and enraging to witness. This silence makes those of us demanding the end to this war and occupation feel crazy when we are the ones standing for humanity, standing against genocide, standing for what is right. In some ways, it feels like too little too late for Kingston to pass a permanent ceasefire resolution. On the other hand, it feels like the bare minimum that can be done. Last week, 25-year-old Aaron Bushnell, an active duty member of the Air Force, engaged in the act of self-immolation because he could no longer be complicit in genocide. We, the people of Kingston, should at least be able to say the words, permanent ceasefire now. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Marianne Parker.
Good evening, everyone, and congratulations on your elections to office. I hope you'll find the journey to be an exciting one. I have previously been involved, so I know what you're doing sitting up there. Decisions will be hard to be made, but I'm here tonight because I live in Ward 4, which is Jeannie Edwards' ward. I came mainly to thank Jeannie for getting the cameras in Midtown and in the by the rail trail area. The only thing is the cameras aren't working. So I guess I'm wondering why put the cameras in if they're not working? We have to have the cameras working for public safety reasons. I've been watching over on Aura Place where they have the rail trail and fire trucks come in there. 2 ambulances go in there, the gurneys go in there, they go underneath the Elmendorf Street hump. They come out with people in them. It's never in the paper, you never know what happened to them. Public safety is so important in this city of Kingston of ours. And now, living in Ward 4, there is another problem, and that is the warming center, which is on Elmendorf Street. I have a good heart. For 10 years, we have allowed, as taxpayers, excuse me, we have allowed the warming center to be there with Catholic Charities, and it was working well. But this past year has been a nightmare. I spoke with the mailman today. He told me, he walks down the street and they ask him, "You got any money?" He says, "No, I don't, but what do you need?" A nice young guy. He said, "I want some food, I'm hungry." So he said, "Okay, once my route is completed, you meet me here by the church and I'll give you some tacos." He went and got the tacos, he brought them back. He wasn't there when he got back. And he said, then I met a lady walking today and she said to me, "What's going on?" She said, "They're screaming and they're yelling and they're banging on cars over in here. And we're like in a third world country." Then, to top it all off, the children get off the school buses and they never know who's going to be there. Thank God most of the parents come in and bail them out and take them in their cars to take them home to get away. This is public safety in the city of Kingston. What is happening?
30
You go on
seconds.
to Elmendorf Street and you see a food truck. I was going there one day and I went and there, he almost hit me, the guy, because the food truck is taking up half the road. The people don't have the right to walk on Elmendorf Street. They've got cars and they weren't supposed to have any cars on the hump on Elmendorf Street. They've got cars parked on that hump on both sides of the street. And the city of Kingston just fixed that hump. When I was in office, I'll go real quick and tell you what happened.
Well, your time is up. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Wait for the accident, wait for the
Thank
car
you.
to fly
Thank
over
you.
the Elmendorf Street hill.
Thank you.
you. You have a good day.
Next speaker, please.
Beth Safford.
Actually, I'm sorry, or at least if you could just hold off for a second. Council members, it has been 30 minutes. Can I get a motion? Motion by Rennie Scott Childress, second by Michael Tierney to extend for another 30 minutes. Can I have a call for a vote? All in favor? Opposed? We have extended for another 30 minutes. Our public speaking.
Yeah, this is Beth Safford. She's going to let me go first, and I'm the next speaker, and my name is Michelle Whitaker. So if that's at all acceptable.
You're just switching the
We're
two
just
of
switching
you?
spots at the moment,
That-
so. yeah,
that's fine.
Thank you. That's what we're doing. All right, you can
Bye.
sit down. My name is Michelle Whitaker, and I live at 68 Elmendorf Street. I've lived at 68 Elmendorf Street since 1977. Marianne Parker in 2003 was our alderwoman. And I have to say again, I'm speaking here on behalf of the Warming Center. Jeannie Edwards has been moving mountains and trying to get a handle on the public safety. Having been a community resident as well as a child care provider for well over 30 years, my problem is not necessarily the warming center itself, is that there is no safety plan for the children. The children are seeing this. There's anywhere from 25 to 35 children on a daily basis that are seeing and being traumatized, by the ongoing efforts of the people in the media community. I myself I'm a widow of 10 years. I've had to police my area. I went for 2 weeks to visit my son in Arizona. I came back, and in my own personal garage, they had made a camp of themselves of people who were not going into the warming center, utilizing my garage as selling drugs out of. So right now, I'm just here to introduce myself and make myself available to Ms. Edwards as we look to address this problem. So I will be seeing a lot of you in regards to this, because I also want to be opening my home as a short-term maternity home for the residents in Kingston who are having such a problem with housing. I work at a pregnancy center, and we've been inundated with phone calls from pregnant moms who have absolutely nowhere to go. So again, Elmendorf Street is a focus that this council needs to be looking at. My heart goes out to all the speakers from before, but being a community resident for all of my life, we need to address Midtown. We need to address the warming center, and we need to make it safe for the children so that we're not traumatizing them for future problems later on. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
Thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Beth Safford, and I've been here in Kingston for over 50 years, married in, and we stay here. We like it, but there are some sections of the city that are really difficult to visit. And one of the best things you ever did was put the library on Franklin Street, and now I believe it's moved. Okay, so I don't know what's going to happen there. Children grow up to be, most of the time, what they have experienced when they are small. And the children on Elmendorf Street, I'm going to be helping with the Bravo Pregnancy Center. And the children on Elmendorf Street are not safe. And if they see things that the adults are doing as they come out in the morning from the warming center or hang around all day because they haven't got anything else to do, that's an influence that we don't need in an already fragile area, okay? My suggestion, I've come with a suggestion. I would like to see the warming center moved outside of a city area. I think it needs to be someplace outside so that when they say at 7 o'clock in the morning, you need to be gone, you take a bus, you go where you need to go, but you don't congregate in one small area on 1 or 2 streets where there are that many children. There are needles left over. People have seen people using them. They get to the point where they don't even hide the fact. All right, so we do need to do something drastic. And I think the drastic is to move the warming center outside of the city. The entire county sends people there from Ellenville. If someone's on the street and they bring them to our warming center here in Kingston. I understand it's a county warming center, but then put it in the county and not in the city.
30
Thank you.
seconds. And just to clarify, the library is being renovated, so it will be back on Franklin Street. That was for you, Addie. Next speaker, please.
Bill Cosme.
Good evening, Phil Cosme, 278 Washington Avenue. I've been riding bicycles since I was 7 years old. I've been riding motorcycles and driving cars since I was 16 years old. As of late, I've been driving my bicycle around Kingston. I don't know, you might have all seen me. I'm on there every day. It's quicker, more efficient, and healthier. But I won't go on the bike trails on Broadway. The one on Greenkill isn't too bad for a bike. But if I'm pulling out of one of the side streets, I actually had to drive down the bike trail because I'm not used to going past parked cars to get to the road. I only went 2 houses down. Anyways, I travel under the basic law of defensive driving and never assume the other guy is going to do what he's supposed to do. And that's how I've been able to still be able to walk around and still alive. I'm sure if we research every one of these accidents between the bikes, and I haven't heard any pedestrians in Kingston in a while, but there's been one in Saugerties, the one in Rosendale. They had some part in the outcome, whether they weren't wearing bright enough colored clothes, they were pressing their right of way. A lot of people don't even know what their right of ways are. So I don't know what the details are on this legislation, but I hope that's taken into effect because all these signs you're putting up on Henry Street, beware of bicycles in lane. I'm sure if you see a bicycle, you know there's a bicycle in the lane and you're not distracted by that sign. Besides, they look terrible. So I'm here and if I can be of help in any of the discussions, please feel free to call me. And wow, I got a whole minute left. I support what these people here are promoting. And I also want you to realize that we should end all violence because we tell our children, no violence, don't react, talk it out. But by example, we show, well, if you attack me,
30
I'm going to
seconds.
attack you. So I think we should just put an end to war, period. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Addie Smock.
My name's Addie Smock. I'm a resident of Ward 6. I'm also the Assistant Director of the Kingston Library here as a private citizen. But for folks who don't know, we are renovating our beloved Franklin Street home. It is a huge endeavor. We are updating all of the systems. And we are uptown currently. We are at the old Sione building on Crown Street. So please come see us. We are open. So I'm here in favor of the safe systems approach. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a necessity for fair and safe use of our infrastructure. Public spaces are not solely for vehicle drivers. They belong to all of us. Our roads currently prioritize the convenience of motor vehicles at the expense of all other modes of transportation. This results in unequal access to safe and efficient travel options, particularly for those who rely on walking, cycling, and public transit. The Safe Systems approach presents an opportunity to rectify this imbalance by promoting inclusivity and accessibility for all. The Safe Systems approach isn't just about reducing the number of deaths on our roads, it's about fundamentally reshaping the way we think about transportation safety. While achieving 0 deaths may seem like an ambitious goal, it's actually dishearteningly low. Missing from this black and white benchmark is the number of people who, like me, are hit by cars and live, but then go on to quit riding or walking. Or about the folks who never ever walk because they feel afraid. Implementing safe systems means prioritizing human safety. It means designing our roads and infrastructure with the understanding that people are people and they're going to make mistakes. But those mistakes should not have tragic consequences. It means investing in safe road design, implementing lower speed limits, enhancing pedestrian and cycling infrastructure, and adopting technology that can detect and mitigate potential hazards before they escalate. And this isn't just about ensuring safety, even though we keep saying safety, safety. It's about fostering a sense of community and belonging where everyone has the freedom to move safely and comfortably throughout our town. My personal experience serves as a stark reminder of the urgent need for this change. No one should have to endure the trauma of being struck by a vehicle, let alone multiple times. There's a hitch in my voice because it's still really, it's really fresh, even though it wasn't. I was first hit while riding the Broadway bike lane when an SUV made an illegal right on red from Cornell. More recently, I was rear-ended by a car while riding my bike to work at the library at the intersection of Front and
seconds.
Wall. By embracing the safe systems approach, we're not just talking about statistics. We're talking about real people, our friends, our neighbors, your librarians, who deserve to travel our roads without fearing for their safety. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Rose Quinn.
Hello, can everyone hear me? My name is Rose Quinn. I am a Kingston resident. I am a resident of Ward 2. I live on Down Street. Before I go any further, I'm talking in support of Vision Zero and the safe system approach as it is offered by the New York State Department, I'm sorry, not even the United States Department of Transportation. I want to take a second to say the names of 2 Kingston residents who were struck down in Marlboro while on March 1st. One was pushing a wheelchair, one was 75, the other was 72. When we talk about complete streets and safe systems, we need to consider every single street and road that our citizens are traveling on, and the complete system of Ulster County is part of that network. Their names are Donna Castillo, 72, and Stephen Seluch, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, C-E-L-U-C-H, struck down in Marlboro. We are at a point in history, locally, nationally, and statewide, of crisis on our roads when it comes to vehicular violence. This is not a time for half measures. This is not a time for making compromises when we don't have to. The bipartisan infrastructure law has made that clear. We do not need to compromise the safety of our most vulnerable road users because of cost or because of lack of education. We can get all of that for our planners, our engineers, and our policymakers if we do the work to do it. I am here to, one, say thank you very much to the Common Council members who took this to caucus and had a very serious discussion about it and have hopefully decided to put this off for a little while and have a very serious conversation about how to move forward with this. In that conversation,
seconds.
just so you know, I am here. I was one of the first people in New York State as a representative of the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee and a grant holder to get safe systems training. I actually came to Common Council on the day that the mayor made the proclamation that we were going to move forward with it to share with Common Council what the safe system approach was and how important it is and how we cannot water it down right now.
Thank you. Time's up.
So thank you very much.
Next speaker, please.
Larissa Jacobson.
Hello, my name is Larissa Jacobson. I live in Ward 9 and am proud to have as my council member Alder Hirsch. As a 5-year and hopefully much longer resident of Kingston, a parent, and someone who works to support local farmers and regional economies and land issues, I call on this Common Council to pass a resolution for a permanent ceasefire, as multiple Hudson Valley cities have already done. I know some of you have expressed concerns about polarization in Kingston. For that reason, it's important to mention that my perspective is of someone whose family has been deeply touched by both anti-Semitism and military occupation. Before immigrating here as a child, my mom was born a war refugee amidst a military occupation where 20 million people died and 95 million were displaced. My father's grandmother immigrated to the US from now Belarus because her two younger twin brothers had been brutally murdered, beheaded in an anti-Semitic attack. Additionally, I grew up 2 blocks from the Tree of Life Synagogue in a multiracial neighborhood in Pittsburgh, where in 2018, 11 people died and 6 others were wounded at the hands of an anti-Semitic, anti-immigrant shooter in the deadliest attack on Jewish people in this country's history. These experiences of my family and communities have crystallized for me the deep urgency of calling for an immediate and permanent ceasefire and an end to the Israeli government's genocidal violence against the people of occupied Palestine. As distant and local officials debate or refuse to even comment on a ceasefire, Israeli attacks have killed so many children that it amounts to about 1 out of every 100 children in Gaza, the equivalent of 1 Palestinian child killed by military attacks every 10 minutes. UN officials have said these tragic and horrific attacks are man-made and entirely preventable. As mentioned, the total of 30,500 people dead, more than that, is more than all the population of Kingston. And what about their loved ones who survive with loss of their own family members, children, grandparents, friends, community members, loss of limbs, generations of trauma? No matter what you and constituents care about, this issue is relevant locally. In other ways, of the $3.8 billion in military aid the U.S. sends annually to Israel, Kingston residents pay close to $350,000 in federal tax dollars. Instead, that amount could fund 40 households with public housing for a year, free or low-cost healthcare for 120 children in Kingston, and 990 households with solar electricity for a year. Alder Scott Childress teaches his university students how history has very real effects on people's lives. This is not just history, this is not just politics.
30
This is
seconds.
kids and families changed for generations. How are these not local issues? Would we accept this here? As residents of a city home to so many Indigenous people, such diversity of life, as people who care about human life, why do we accept it elsewhere? If this were happening here in Kingston, would we want people to turn away, to remain neutral on one of the most basic questions of whether we deserve the opportunity to live in peace, not to watch our dear ones killed before our eyes? A resolution for a permanent ceasefire is the very least we in Kingston and
Thank
you who
you.
seek to
Time is up.
represent us can do.
Thank you.
I want to be able to tell my children that passed.
Thank you. We're now going to open it up to Zoom folks who have their hands raised. Next speaker.
Ella.
Ella, you there?
Hello.
Hi, Ella. Can you just say a couple words so I can just make sure the sound is good?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, hi, this is Ella Condrat.
All right, Ella, we
Does
could
this
hear you.
sound
You have,
okay?
yep, we could hear you now. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Ella Condrat. I actually live in New Paltz, but I work in Kingston. I have many loved ones in Kingston, and I'm on the Kingston Complete Streets Advisory Council. I'm speaking in support of Kingston adopting Vision Zero, and I thank the Common Council members who have stood up to improve the language of the legislation to reflect that we should be setting goals in line with Vision Zero. Kingston has made some great strides in street safety in recent years, but we've also had an increase in deaths of vulnerable road users. We in Kingston think of ourselves as a model that others in the region or even country can aspire to. But in order to take it to that next level, we need to make some bold moves. We need to be much more aggressive with traffic calming. Many residents are complaining of feeling unsafe due to car speeds on their streets or even getting hit by cars, as Addie has experienced. And I think that traffic calming measures will ultimately be popular. Starting out with traffic calming can be as simple and cheap as placing a few traffic barrels strategically on a residential street, things such as that, and can be refined and potentially made more permanent from there. Infrastructure changes can also be integrated into repaving projects, which they are already doing in Hoboken and Emeryville, California. And by the way, they are also, the traffic barrels strategy that I mentioned is also being utilized, and things similar to that in different countries and different cities throughout the world. Let's make pedestrian and bike rider safety our number one, not number two or number three, number one priority when designing our streets going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Tanya Garment.
Hi, Tanya, are you there?
Yes.
All right,
Hi.
Tanya. Hi, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks. Tanya Garment. I live on Wirt Street in the city of Kingston, and we're at a moment of great possibility in terms of traffic safety and equitability, public health, and better public realm in the city of Kingston because of initiatives and opportunities and plans from the federal government, and also because of groundwork that's been laid within the city of Kingston. We've got a new form-based code with street design standards. We're a member of NACDO. We have, the city of Kingston has become quite adept at winning grants. But we also have gotten into the habit in Kingston of only thinking big, only thinking of big projects. One example is the Broadway streetscape, which I think is brought up a couple of times this evening. It has to be looked at as just the first large step. We need to look at our intersections now on Broadway. We need to continually think about things that we've started and move forward. And it can't just be large things. There are instances at the planning board recently where we could be that are highlighting missed opportunities. And just one was sort of saved by community members' involvement at the Five Corners, preserving the public realm that's owned by the city of Kingston, and highlighting the pedestrians by not allowing that to become excessive parking. Another one coming up to the planning board is Pettit Avenue, where a large apartment building wants to build on what we all thought was a city street, Pettit Avenue, between Klingberg and Route 32 or Boulevard, is actually possibly privately owned. We need to start thinking ahead, looking at important intersections and streets and connectors, and planning ahead for that to preserve that. And we also need to think, like Ella mentioned, about small
30
changes
seconds.
like bollards and demonstration projects. The planning that was mentioned last night, I'm very thankful that the Common Council is talking about that and incorporating that into this resolution. It needs to be really delicately handled so that we make sure that this administration and future administrations are really looking at all levels of possibility and change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanya. Next speaker, please.
Chelsea Villalba.
Hi, Chelsea, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Chelsea. You have 3 minutes.
Okay.
Chelsea Villalba, Ward 1, Kingston. I attended last night's caucus meeting and I heard you debating about setting the lofty goal of 0 pedestrians killed in the city of Kingston. I don't know how this council can keep letting its own community members down. How many people will be killed by vehicular slaughter by 2030? Do you respect life enough to act with conviction? Today, 2 more Kingston residents were killed in a hit and run in this county, adding to the too large a number of Kingstonians killed in the county this year so far and the too many killed in 2023. Kingston residents are not safe anywhere. This is the message your inaction and word mincing is sending. Do your jobs and be proactive in saving lives. I feel confident in your abilities to create a plan for 0 vehicular murders in Kingston by 2025, the same way I feel confident that you can and will adopt a ceasefire resolution. In January, I was disturbed and disappointed by my alder, Sarah Pasty, and other laws and rules members who refused to read or even discuss a ceasefire resolution or listen to their own colleagues' amendments. Act with haste. Act with courage and ambition. I know you watch the news and see the fascist hellscape this country is descending into. Are you comfortable wasting the power you have and not putting out a simple statement or necessary plan to stop preventable deaths? Look at your neighbors here. We know these meetings don't typically get this many people to come out. Are you listening to them? Everything is connected. This city prides itself on climate justice. The #1 climate solution for this city is to make it walkable and accessible. Make it safe. Half-hearted solutions like EVs and bike lanes with paint and no real safety infrastructure are asinine. Everything is connected. Climate does not happen in a silo or sole municipality. Our tax dollars directly fund and arm the tons of bombs dropped in Gaza that are increasing the global temperature and ensuring widespread human destruction and climate catastrophe. It is extremely hypocritical of Kingston to call itself climate smart or safe for its residents if it will not act on issues directly affecting people living here. Your inaction facilitates this country's discrimination against pedestrians, which is inherently classist against those without the privilege of owning a vehicle. Your violent silence supports the murder of tens of thousands of Palestinians, including over 17,000 children. Your silence is complicity that ensures a future that is too hot and too cold with not enough water for all our children. You all
30 seconds.
have the power to do something that these neighbors that have come out to speak cannot. Call for a ceasefire. You can write a ceasefire resolution, you can pass it, and that can get passed up to our federal representatives. What is local government for if not telling our electeds and at all levels what we need as a community? Do your job, y'all. Make this city safe. Call for a ceasefire. Those aren't mutually exclusive.
Thank you. Time's up. Council members, can I get a motion to extend the public? Motion by Rennie Scott Childress, second by Drew Andrews. All in favor? Opposed? Public speaking is open for another 30 minutes. We only have 1 more signed up. 2 more signed up. Next speaker, please.
Benji Bruno.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Ben, and I live in Kingston, Ward 7. I've lived in Ulster County for over 15 years. I'm Jewish, and I've spent time in Israel. And unlike anyone who is opposed to a ceasefire, I've also spent time in the Palestinian territories. I have a few points to make in favor of an urgent need to pass an immediate and permanent ceasefire resolution. City councils pass resolutions on national and international issues all the time. So it's the job of the city council to consider this one rather than to deflect and say it's not related to our city. Additionally, this does affect our city, as many of us have direct ties to the region, and all of us pay taxes that are being sent to Israel to kill Palestinians in the region. The notion that a ceasefire resolution is anti-Semitic is complete nonsense. Thousands and thousands of Jews like myself are a huge part of the movement calling for a ceasefire to save lives. A ceasefire resolution, a permanent ceasefire resolution, does not have to support one side. It is about saving lives on all sides. Therefore, it absolutely can and should call for the release of all hostages, including over 100 Israeli hostages currently held by Hamas, as well as thousands of Palestinian hostages currently held by Israel, and who we hear far less about in the mainstream media. Nancy Pelosi has suggested that supporters of a ceasefire and Palestinian human rights are Russian agents. First of all, if you are going to vocally condemn what Russia is doing, as many of us, including myself, do, we must also vocally condemn what America and Israel are doing, which is killing far more innocent civilians at a far more rapid rate than anything Russia has done. Second of all, a far more accurate analysis would recognize that the closest thing we have to a foreign agent in this community is Pat Ryan, operating as an Israeli agent. What else can we call it when someone takes $70,000 of Israel lobby money to get elected and then uses that position to help send billions of dollars of our taxpayer money, as well as weapons, to Israel, all while directly subverting the will of his voters and constituents, the majority of whom wish to see a ceasefire in Gaza now? And more generally, to see more investment in our community rather than the military of a foreign government, as well as our own military-industrial complex. It is imperative of the City Council to pass an immediate, permanent ceasefire resolution as a way to pressure Pat Ryan to
30
stop working,
seconds.
as a way to pressure Pat Ryan to stop working as an operative for Israel and instead do his job representing the people of District 18 in New York, as well as to have Kingston join the movement to put an end to the most devastating, quick, and systemic mass murder of civilians that we have seen in our time. So that is the job of the City Council right now, to pass that permanent ceasefire resolution immediately. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Mark Goikhman.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mark. You have 3
Oh, great.
minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, I joined the call because I heard a lot of people talking about putting resolutions forward. I think it's not the place of the City Council to do that. These are complicated international issues, so I don't think it's Kingston's place to do that, especially when it's very divisive, especially the way it's being phrased here. I've been a Gardner resident since about 1979. There is no genocide. Genocide is systematic extermination. And the Palestinian community has grown by thousands of percent, even in Israel. Israel was formed, there was 200,000 Arabs who lived in the area, and now there's 2 million. There's no genocide. 30,000 people did. That's a Hamas estimate. It's a lie. It's not that high. Number one. Number two, 10,000 terrorists have been killed. Their kill ratio, if we want to talk about it, is 2 to 1, which is fantastic. In any war, if you had 2 good guys killed for every 1 bad guy killed, that's amazing. In Germany, hundreds of thousands of innocent people were killed in World War II to get the Nazis to stop. Hundreds of thousands of people in Japan were killed to get the Japanese emperor to stop. Thousands of Italians were killed to get Mussolini to stop. The issue isn't whether there will be collateral damage. That's what war is. It's horrible. It's terrible. It's devastating. It's mean. It's not good. But the issue is Hamas on October 7th attacked. That's the issue. Any call for a ceasefire, I want to let you know, I'm Jewish. And I'll tell you, I think it's silly to say I'm Jewish, therefore believe me. But I'm going to counter it by saying I'm Jewish. Any call for a ceasefire, a permanent, absolute ceasefire, is anti-Semitic and anti-Jew. It's Jew-hating at the top degree. People should realize that. Don't fall into their trap. The hostages have to be released. There are 100 hostages still out there. And Hamas can't be allowed to continue. Those are 2 preconditions to a ceasefire. I'd like a ceasefire to release the hostages. Hamas comes out and surrenders. The ceasefire happens immediately. It's under Hamas's control, the ceasefire. Hamas, keeps hiding amongst their civilian population. That's what kills civilians. There are no Israelis who go out and say, let's kill children today. There are
30
none. There is
seconds.
0. They are after Hamas. They're hiding in hospitals. They're hiding in schools. They're hiding in playgrounds. They're hiding underground. There's no way else to get them. And they promise to kill more. This would not save lives. It would endanger lives around the world by emboldening Hamas to commit atrocities. And they did that. There was a ceasefire in place on October 6th. Did you know that? There was a ceasefire in place. But October 7th broke the ceasefire.
Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That is all we have signed up, but is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Anybody else who wishes to speak? Then I will close the public speaking portion of the meeting. We now enter into claims and communications. Hearing no discussion, they will be on file in the clerk's office. Can I get a motion to dispense with the second reading of the general bills and pay same? Motion by Rennie Scott Childress, second by Bob Dennison. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is adopted 8-0. We're now entering into the report of committees, starting with resolution number 34.
Resolution 34 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending the approval of a 2023 transfer in the Parks and Recreation Department in the amount of $18,369 to reconcile accounts.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 35, please.
Resolution 35 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending the approval of a 2023 transfer in the amount of $81,245.72 in the Fire Department to cover the expense of overages.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 36, please.
Resolution 36 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending the approval of a 2023 transfer in the amount of $14,439.95 in the Fire Department's budget to balance accounts.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 37, please.
Resolution 37 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending the approval of a 2023 transfer in the amount of $78,491.78 in the wastewater treatment plant's budget to reconcile accounts.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 38, please.
Resolution 38 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending the approval of a 2024 transfer in the Department of Public Works in the amount of $86,619.91 to purchase streetlights and cover the cost of retirement resignation payouts.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 39, please.
Resolution 39 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending the approval of a 2024 transfer in the amount of $18,275 from contingency to cover the expense of a temporary employee in the Parks and Recreation Department.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 40, please.
Resolution 40 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending the approval of a 2024 transfer in the amount of $484,800.50 in the Housing Initiatives budget to transfer unspent grant money from the 2023 to 2024 budget.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution 41, please.
Resolution 41 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending the approval of a 2024 transfer in the amount of $2,500 in the city clerk's budget to purchase minor office equipment.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 42, please.
Resolution 42 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending the approval of a 2023 budget transfer in the amount of $443,627 from the Comptroller on behalf of all city departments to reconcile general funds New York State Retirement Employee Benefit account.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 43, please.
Resolution 43 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending the approval of a 2023 budget transfer in the amount of $142,489 from the comptroller on behalf of all city departments to reconcile sewer fund New York State Retirement Employee Benefit account.
On the question, hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 44, please.
Resolution 44 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, appointing the Director of Housing Initiatives as the City of Kingston's Fair Housing Officer.
On the question, Alderman Steve Shabbat.
Madam Chairman. Yeah, I'd just like to say a couple positive things about this. I think Bartek probably already, he's been acting in this capacity right along. I think our move to make this an official position for him demonstrates our continued commitment to the current housing crisis here in the city. You know, we probably could have done without it, but I think it says a lot for the administration, you know, to move these kind of things forward. It gives us a little more credibility, a little more viability. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else? Hearing no more further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 45, please.
Resolution 45 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, supporting the mayor's executive order dated June 30th, 2023 on safe systems approach to the city's transportation system.
On the question, Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch.
Thank you, Madam President. Preventing the loss of life to traffic violence is paramount to this council. While we worked on the language of this resolution last night in caucus, I believe that it needs a little more work because putting this forward, it has to be right. So I'd like to make a motion to send this back to committee. Thank you.
There's a motion to send this resolution back to committee. Is there a second? Rennie Scott Childress, all in favor, or any discussion? Discussion? Alderman Michael Tierney.
Yes, I had so I put forward some perspective changes to the resolution that I sent with you guys. I had a further conversation with the mayor, and he is in agreement with this resolution ultimately, but he feels, and we all feel, that we can take the time the next month to really hammer down the benchmarks necessary to set this plan. So I thank everybody for their commitment to this, and Bob, thank you for introducing this. This is really important that we recognize our need to address traffic safety. And I think we'll be able to do that in the next month with this resolution. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. This vote is to table resolution 45 back to laws and rules. All in favor to table?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is tabled. Moving to resolution number 46, please.
Resolution 46 of 2024. An ordinance amending an ordinance in relation to the traffic on the public streets of the City of Kingston, New York, adding handicap parking on Liberty Street.
On the question, hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 47, please.
Resolution 47 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting approval to the 2023 General Fund budgetary transfer totaling $889,530.
On the question, hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 48, please.
Resolution 48 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting approval of a budgetary transfer in the amount of $42,320 to reconcile the 2023 sewer fund employee benefit medical accounts.
On the question, hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 49, please.
Resolution 49 of 2024. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting approval of a budget transfer in the amount of $510,358 to reconcile the 2023 general fund employee benefit medical accounts.
On the question, hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 50, please.
Resolution 50 of 2024, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting approval of the city's 2023 sewer fund budget transfer totaling $152,318.
On the question, hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 51, please.
Resolution 51 of 2024, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the transfer of 38 Post Street to Studio Gene Shin Incorporated.
On the question, hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 52, please.
Resolution 52 of 2024, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, designated Post Office Park and official city park.
On the question, hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to our local laws now, starting with local law number 1. This is the second reading, so I'll call for the vote.
Local Law 1 of 2024 of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, amending Section 390.80, immobilization and impounding of vehicles.
On the question, Alderman Michael Tierney.
Thank you, council members, for putting this back to committee that first time to make this a little bit more forgiving. And I also want to thank Vinny and his team for the hard work that they do to ensure that our parking is fair and just and, rotates the parking spots. So I think this was a really collaborative effort between all 10 of us, and the mayor and the parking enforcement office. So thank you, everybody, for modifying that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hear no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Local law is adopted 8-0. Moving to the second reading of local law 2.
Local Law 2 of 2024 of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, amending Section 277, hotels, motels, bed and breakfast, boarding houses, and other transient lodging of the Code of the City of Kingston.
On the question, Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch.
Thank you, Madam President. This is amending Section 277 of our code regarding transient lodging, so that licensing now goes through the city clerk's office. This is bringing the language in our city code in line with our new zoning code, and I'll be in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing no one else, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Local Law 2 is adopted 8-0. Moving to the first reading of Local Law 3, so no vote.
Local Law 3 of 2024 of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, amending Chapter 178, Buildings Unsafe of the Code of the City of Kingston.
Moving to the first reading of Local Law 4.
Local Law 4 of 2024 of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, amending Chapter 179, Buildings Vacant of the Code of the City of Kingston.
That concludes our communications for the month. Before we close the meeting, I would like to close in memory of Ms. Matthews. She wasn't a Kingston resident, but she did positively affect a lot of Kingstonians, myself included. Ms. Matthews was the kindergarten teacher at Crosby Elementary School. Actually, she started when it was, I think, Lake Katrine Elementary School, when my mother went to school there. And she was my mother's kindergarten teacher. Then she was my older brother's, mine, my younger sister's, my younger brother's, and she was also my husband's kindergarten teacher. And I just have very fond memories, not only in her class, she had a piano and always liked to start class playing piano, but also seeing her around town, most notably with her mother over the years at Adams, is where I ran into her often. She always knew my name, and it was her and her mother. It was a special relationship that I was always very fond of, and I would like to close in memory of Ms. Matthews. Thank you. Anyone else? Alderman Rennie Scott Childress?
Speaking of your mother, Andrea, we'd like to close this meeting in honor of Linda Jean Schott. She died just very recently, and she was born in Kingston, daughter of the late Stanley Kenneth and Marie Sabino. How do you say the last name? Wocho. Linda was a Kingston High School graduate and received a bachelor's degree from SUNY Fredonia. A 37-year employee at IBM, Town of Ulster and Poughkeepsie, Linda began as a forklift driver and retired as a computer programmer. I'm sure that her skills as a forklift driver helped in having 4 children. Linda was very proud of her family's annual fundraiser in her mother's memory that featured her family in support of the Alzheimer's Association, a Hudson Valley chapter. They raised over $90,000 in the 13 years of running that program. Just shy of 50 years of wedded bliss. I'm sure it was all bliss with your father. We are saddened for you, but we know, from what we know of you, that your mother must have been an amazing person. That you bring such a spark and diligence and clarity to the work that you do. You make the city work. You make us all better people, and we appreciate your mother's spirit working through you.
Thank you all very much. She actually, a little known secret is she hated me in this position, but but she supported me so much that she would campaign with me and help me fundraise. And I mean, I think the last thing that she left the house for was our swearing in ceremony in January, because as sick as she was, she knew how important it was to me. So she was a very special woman. Thank you. Alderman Steve Shabbat.
Yeah, I'd just like to have a personal aside here. Kingston being what it is, and everybody knows everybody, and there's, you know, the 6 degrees of separation here. I graduated high school with the president's mom. After she passed, I notified our class. We have a Facebook site, Class of 69, and the outpouring of sentiment after all these years was incredible. Your mom was really well thought of.
Thank you, Steve. Alderman Steve Shabbat.
Yeah, I have a couple more. This one is really pretty personal to me. Sean Cummings, although he's in his 50s, I still call him a young boy. He was married to my niece for a while. He passed very suddenly. He was born and raised here in Kingston. He was a master electrician, had his own business. He really had a lot to live for in his life. You know, he had a son, 8-year-old son, Emmett. His mom was still around here. He was just a really nice guy. I'm going to miss him a lot. Another one is Shirley Seeger, mom of a very close friend of mine. Shirley's born and raised here. I'm going to test everybody's memory here. She went to the Kingston Hospital Nursing School, which has not been in existence for quite a number of years. She became an RN and worked at the Kingston Hospital for 39 years. Very active in the community. What I remember mostly about her, and again, I'm dating myself, back in our day, we had our proms in the Kate Walton Fieldhouse, and Shirley and her husband used to come and decorate the Fieldhouse for our proms. So that's probably my most outstanding memory. She does leave behind her 2 sons, Fred and Jeff, 2 grandkids. And lastly, a cousin, Frank Woods. We worked together for quite a long time with the county. He was a master electrician as well. He leaves behind his wife, Rebecca, and 2 daughters.
Thanks, Steve. Anybody else? Hearing no one else, I will hear a motion to adjourn. Motion by Michelle Hirsch, second by Drew Andrews. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Then we stand here. adjourned until the next regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024.